Hola, hola amigos, amigas, ¿cómo están? Filipo Beltrán, un placer saludarles. Gracias por acompañarnos en México Informa, miércoles 21 de enero del 2026. Fuerte mensaje de Carney en el foro de Davos, este foro mundial. Bueno, aquí está lo que posteó, incluso desde su cuenta de X. A medida que las grandes potencias abandonan reglas y valores en beneficio de sus propios intereses, las potencias intermedias como Canadá tienen una opción: competir entre sí para obtener favores o actuar juntas y tener impacto. Incluso le preguntaron a la presidenta Sheinbaum sobre este tema global, por supuesto, la situación de Groenlandia, la participación de Donald Trump, que fue el día de hoy, y las negociaciones que se tienen ya con la OTAN. Vamos a ir por partes, vamos a escuchar la opinión de la presidenta esta mañana.
GR03NLANDIA de revista Fortuna. Presidenta, en el contexto de la reconfiguración del orden económico global y mayor competencia por la inversión, preguntarle cómo se inserta el Plan México en este nuevo orden mundial y qué mensaje busca enviar su gobierno en el Foro Económico de Davos 2026 a los inversionistas internacionales sobre la certidumbre y el rumbo económico del país.
Por cierto, muy buen discurso de Carney, del primer ministro Carney, no sé si lo oyeron, muy a tono con los momentos actuales. Estuvo ahí o está ahí la secretaria Bárcenas. Ella, por supuesto, va a presentar el proyecto de nación que representamos, lo que significa desarrollo económico con justicia y protección al medio ambiente, las inversiones públicas que estamos haciendo y la importancia de la inversión privada a partir de una visión de justicia y sustentabilidad. Y por supuesto que México está abierto a las inversiones privadas de distintos países, a la inversión extranjera directa y particularmente los polos de bienestar, que ya van muy avanzados. Este año, el año 2025, pues fue un poco para promoverlos y este año van a iniciar. Entonces eso fue lo que se presentó en Davos.
¿Cuáles son las ventajas que ofrece México frente a los otros países?
Primero, el pueblo de México, trabajador, responsable. Segundo, un gobierno reconocido por su pueblo. Tercero, certidumbre. Y cuarto, que vemos las inversiones no solamente como una forma de crecimiento, sino hoy como una forma de generar empleo con bienestar, porque pues los salarios son mejores hoy de lo que eran antes. Y por supuesto, en términos de exportación, la cercanía con Estados Unidos y la apertura comercial que tenemos con diversos países del mundo y el esquema que estamos haciendo de integración de cadenas productivas. Entonces eso es muy atractivo para quien quiere venir a invertir a México.
Muchas gracias, Presidenta. En este contexto sobre el bienestar, de la población, el fin de semana se informó.
Bueno, pues ahí está parte de lo que dice la doctora. Más adelante también le preguntaron sobre el tema del TEMEC. Hay que recordar que se viene el Mundial, por lo que no se ve a corto plazo una ruptura, aunque bueno, Donald Trump dice que no le interesa el TEMEC. Prácticamente hemos visto también posturas pues cortantes de Donald Trump en todos los foros, que él no necesita de nadie, que pues ya incluso le reclamó la primera ministra de Italia. Hoy también el presidente de España se apartó de la fotografía allá en Davos. Y si hay una ruptura importante, por lo menos de comunicación, y de gente que ya está hasta el copete de Donald Trump. Pero el caso de México y Canadá son distintos porque pues, obviamente son socios comerciales y se espera una posible renegociación a pues unos meses del Mundial, por supuesto.
Señora.
Buenos días, Romina Gándara. Sin embargo, Presidenta, en el discurso del primer ministro de Canadá, Carney, pues habla de esta recomposición en el mundo y de cómo pues los países y las naciones están buscando su posición en este nuevo orden. Estamos bastante integrados, México, Estados Unidos y a Canadá, pero pues mañana pueden desenganchar nuestro vagón de ese tren. Preguntarle qué haríamos frente a una situación así, frente a algo así, y hasta dónde hay márgenes para abrirnos vías hacia otros bloques comerciales.
Lo estamos buscando. O sea, nosotros, recuerden que el próximo, no buscando, digamos, estamos trabajando en ello, porque no es buscar así nada más. Nosotros tenemos la firma del convenio o de la ratificación y modernización, actualización del tratado comercial con Europa. Eso es a mediados de este año. Eso ya se negoció por parte de México y de Europa. Ellos tienen que aprobarlo y aquí se tienen que aprobar por nuestros respectivos congresos. Pero es algo que ya está y vamos a seguir avanzando. Vino en su momento el presidente Lula y después vinieron un equipo, el vicepresidente y un grupo de empresarios de Brasil, y tenemos acuerdos, más que un tratado comercial, acuerdos de entendimiento con ellos para fortalecer las alianzas. Vino el presidente de Singapur, o primer ministro de Singapur, y también hay inversiones por parte de Singapur. Tenemos conversaciones con Corea del Sur, conversaciones con otros países. Vino Francia también, el presidente de Francia, también en particular con Francia. Recientemente en una licitación volvió a ganar Alstom, que es una empresa francesa que desde hace muchos años está en México para los ferrocarriles del norte. En fin, con China, aun cuando nosotros decidimos poner aranceles, hay conversaciones con China, pues porque tenemos un comercio muy amplio con China y no deseamos cerrarlo, sino sencillamente que sea un comercio justo. Entonces, hay conversaciones con todos. Ahora, la integración que tiene México con Estados Unidos es muy difícil de romper, porque son cadenas productivas que existen ya desde hace muchos años. Incluso frente a la posibilidad de poner tarifas, etcétera, como ocurrió, de todas maneras el comercio se sigue dando. Y por eso nosotros creemos, además porque es para conveniencia de Estados Unidos, pues que el tratado se va a conservar o a lo mejor hay algunos cambios, pero finalmente en la revisión se va a conservar porque es de beneficio mutuo. Pero evidentemente tenemos y buscamos relación con otras regiones del mundo. Mismo con Canadá, vino el ministro Carney, viene ahora en febrero una delegación muy grande de empresarios de Canadá a México con interés de inversiones en nuestro país.
Sí, justo lo que acabo de mencionar, de que confía en que el TEMEC va a seguir. Pero pues se tendrían o seguramente ya habrían diseñado o habrá diseñado varios escenarios donde Estados Unidos se separe de Canadá. Por ejemplo, en un escenario en el que el TEMEC no siga tal cual lo conocemos hasta el momento, ¿cuál es el planteamiento del plan, presidente?
Bueno, nosotros nos reunimos cada semana con Secretaría de Economía y Secretaría de Hacienda, digamos el gabinete económico. Allí en el gabinete económico está, por supuesto, Secretaría de Economía, está Secretaría de Hacienda, está el IMSS, está Secretaría del Trabajo y otras instituciones. Y allí analizamos pues todos los escenarios para nuestro país y vemos cómo vamos avanzando en las distintas inversiones, tanto públicas como privadas. Y ahí pues tenemos algunos escenarios. Obviamente pues el objetivo pues es que salga bien la revisión del tratado comercial y en eso se está trabajando. Entonces, más que hablar de otros escenarios, pues decir que estamos trabajando todos los días en ello, ¿no?
La Unión Europea también ayer pues dice o promete que va a dar una respuesta firme a Donald Trump, a las amenazas de Donald Trump por el tema de Groenlandia. Hoy pues se espera esta reunión en Davos y ayer cayeron los mercados, es decir, pues hay incertidumbre global. ¿Cuáles son nuestras mayores defensas frente a este mundo que se sacude, Presidenta, y cuál es el papel que debemos jugar los ciudadanos en preparación ante cualquier escenario?
Primero, que el gobierno siempre esté informando a la gente frente a cualquier circunstancia. Y la mayor defensa que tenemos es nuestro pueblo. Y evidentemente un gobierno pues que está atento a lo que está pasando y que tiene distintas alternativas y estar informando en caso de que veamos, si es que así lo vemos, una condición de vulnerabilidad o difícil. Pero México, el pueblo de México ha vivido muchas calamidades, siempre sale adelante, siempre sale adelante. La mejor defensa que tiene México es su pueblo. Y nosotros, que sepan, pues que estamos trabajando en ello, no estamos ni minimizando ni tampoco exagerando, sino sencillamente trabajando en ello. Y tenemos confianza por la integración, por el solo hecho de la integración, que le conviene a ambos países. El otro día lo dije, las empresas estadounidenses que tienen inversiones aquí son las primeras interesadas en que se mantenga el tratado comercial. Entonces, tenemos confianza en que, quizá con algunas variaciones, pero que va a seguir existiendo este tratado entre México y Estados Unidos.
Bueno, pues ahí está la opinión de la doctora. Por supuesto, también destacó la participación de el ministro canadiense, el primer ministro Mark Carney. ¿Qué dijo? Vamos a verlo.
C'est un plaisir et un devoir d'être parmi vous en ce point tournant pour le Canada et pour le monde. Et je parlerai aujourd'hui de la rupture de l'ordre mondial, de la fin d'une fiction agréable et du début d'une réalité brutale, où la géopolitique des grandes puissances n'est soumise à aucune contrainte. Mais je vous soumets, par ailleurs, que les autres pays, en particulier les puissances moyennes comme le Canada, ne sont pas impuissants. Ils possèdent la capacité de construire une nouvelle ordre qui intègre nos valeurs, comme le respect des droits humains, le développement durable, la solidarité, la souveraineté et l'intégrité territoriale des États. La puissance des moins puissants commence par l'honnêteté. It seems that every day we're reminded that we live in an era of great power rivalry, that the rules-based order is fading, that the strong can do what they can and the weak must suffer what they must. And this aphorism of Thucydides is presented as inevitable, as the natural logic of international relations reasserting itself. And faced with this logic, there is a strong tendency for countries to go along to get along, to accommodate, to avoid trouble, to hope that compliance will buy safety. Well, it won't. So what are our options? In 1978, the Czech dissident Václav Havel, later president, wrote an essay called The Power of the Powerless. And in it, he asked a simple question: how did the communist system sustain itself? And his answer began with a greengrocer. Every morning, this shopkeeper places a sign in his window: "Workers of the world unite." He doesn't believe it. No one does. But he places the sign anyway to avoid trouble, to signal compliance, to get along. And because every shopkeeper on every street does the same, the system persists. Not through violence alone, but through the participation of ordinary people in rituals they privately know to be false. Havel called this living within a lie. The system's power comes not from its truth, but from everyone's willingness to perform as if it were true. And its fragility comes from the same source. When even one person stops performing, when the greengrocer removes his sign, the illusion begins to crack. Friends, it is time for companies and countries to take their signs down. For decades, countries like Canada prospered under what we called the rules-based international order. We joined its institutions, we praised its principles, we benefited from its predictability. And because of that, we could pursue values-based foreign policies under its protection. We knew the story of the international rules-based order was partially false, that the strongest would exempt themselves when convenient, that trade rules were enforced asymmetrically. And we knew that international law applied with varying rigor depending on the identity of the accused or the victim. This fiction was useful, and American hegemony in particular helped provide public goods, open sea lanes, a stable financial system, collective security, and support for frameworks for resolving disputes. So we placed the sign in the window. We participated in the rituals, and we largely avoided calling out the gaps between rhetoric and reality. This bargain no longer works. Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. Over the past 2 decades, a series of crises in finance, health, energy, and geopolitics have laid bare the risks of extreme global integration. But more recently, great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited. You cannot live within the lie of mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination. The multilateral institutions on which the middle powers have relied, the WTO, the UN, the COP, the architecture, the very architecture of collective problem solving are under threat. And as a result, many countries are drawing the same conclusions, that they must develop greater strategic autonomy in energy, food, critical minerals, in finance, and supply chains. And this impulse is understandable. A country that can't feed itself, fuel itself, or defend itself has few options. When the rules no longer protect you, you must protect yourself. But let's be clear-eyed about where this leads. A world of fortresses will be poorer, more fragile, and less sustainable. And there's another truth. If great powers abandon even the pretense of rules and values for the unhindered pursuit of their power and interest, the gains from transactionalism will become harder to replicate. Hegemons cannot continually monetize their relationships. Allies will diversify to hedge against uncertainty. They'll buy insurance, increase options, in order to rebuild sovereignty. Sovereignty that was once grounded in rules but will increasingly be anchored in the ability to withstand pressure. This room knows this is classic risk management. Risk management comes at a price. But that cost of strategic autonomy, of sovereignty, can also be shared. Collective investments in resilience are cheaper than everyone building their own fortresses. Shared standards reduce fragmentations. Complementarities are positive sum. And the question for middle powers like Canada is not whether to adapt to the new reality, we must. The question is whether we adapt by simply building higher walls or whether we can do something more ambitious. Now, Canada was amongst the first to hear the wake-up call, leading us to fundamentally shift our strategic posture. Canadians know that our old, comfortable assumptions that our geography and alliance memberships automatically conferred prosperity and security, that assumption is no longer valid. And our new approach rests on what Alexander Stubb, the President of Finland, has termed value-based realism. Or to put another way, we aim to be both principled and pragmatic. Principled in our commitment to fundamental values, sovereignty, territorial integrity, the prohibition of the use of force except when consistent with the UN Charter, and respect for human rights. And pragmatic in recognizing that progress is often incremental, that interests diverge, that not every partner will share all of our values. So we're engaging broadly, strategically, with open eyes. We actively take on the world as it is, not wait around for a world we wish to be. We are calibrating our relationships, so their depth reflects our values. And we're prioritizing broad engagement to maximize our influence, given the fluidity of the world at the moment, the risks that this poses, and the stakes for what comes next. And we are no longer just relying on the strength of our values, but also the value of our strength. We are building that strength at home. Since my government took office, we have cut taxes on incomes, on capital gains, and business investment. We have removed all federal barriers to interprovincial trade. We are fast-tracking $1 trillion of investments in energy, AI, critical minerals, new trade corridors, and beyond. We're doubling our defense spending by the end of this decade, and we're doing so in ways that build our domestic industries. And we are rapidly diversifying abroad. We've agreed a comprehensive strategic partnership with the EU, including joining SAFE, the European Defense Procurement Arrangements. We have signed 12 other trade and security deals on 4 continents in 6 months. The past few days, we've concluded new strategic partnerships with China and Qatar. We're negotiating free trade pacts with India, ASEAN, Thailand, Philippines, and Mercosur. We're doing something else. To help solve global problems, we're pursuing variable geometry. In other words, different coalitions for different issues based on common values and interests. So on Ukraine, we're a core member of the Coalition of the Willing and one of the largest per capita contributors to its defense and security. On Arctic sovereignty, we stand firmly with Greenland and Denmark and fully support their unique right to determine Greenland's future. Our commitment to NATO's Article 5 is unwavering. So we're working with our NATO allies, including the Nordic Baltic Gate, to further secure the alliance's northern and western flanks, including through Canada's unprecedented investments in over-the-horizon radar, in submarines, in aircraft, and boots on the ground, boots on the ice. Canada strongly opposes tariffs over Greenland and calls for focused talks to achieve our shared objectives of security and prosperity in the Arctic. On plurilateral trade, we're championing efforts to build a bridge between the Trans-Pacific Partnership and the European Union, which would create a new trading bloc of 1.5 billion people. On critical minerals, we're forming buyers clubs anchored in the G7 so that the world can diversify away from concentrated supply. And on AI, we're cooperating with like-minded democracies to ensure that we won't ultimately be forced to choose between hegemons and hyperscalers. This is not naive multilateralism, nor is it relying on their institutions. It's building coalitions that work, issues by issue, with partners who share enough common ground to act together. In some cases, this will be the vast majority of nations. What it's doing is creating a dense web of connections across trade, investment, culture, on which we can draw for future challenges and opportunities. Argue the middle powers must act together because if we're not at the table, we're on the menu. But I'd also say that great powers can afford for now to go it alone. They have the market size, the military capacity, and the leverage to dictate terms. Middle powers do not. But when we only negotiate bilaterally with a hegemon, we negotiate from weakness. We accept what's offered. We compete with each other to be the most accommodating. This is not sovereignty. It's the performance of sovereignty while accepting subordination. In a world of great power rivalry, the countries in between have a choice: compete with each other for favor, or to combine to create a third path with impact. We shouldn't allow the rise of hard power to blind us to the fact that the power of legitimacy, integrity, and rules will remain strong if we choose to wield them together. Which brings me back to Havel. What does it mean for middle powers to live the truth? Well, first, it means naming reality. Stop invoking rules-based international order as though it still functions as advertised. Call it what it is: a system of intensifying great power rivalry where the most powerful pursue their interests using economic integration as coercion. It means acting consistently, applying the same standards to allies and rivals. When middle powers criticize economic intimidation from one direction but stay silent when it comes from another, we are keeping the sign in the window. It means building what we claim to believe in. Rather than waiting for the old order to be restored, it means creating institutions and agreements that function as described. And it means reducing the leverage that enables coercion. That's building a strong domestic economy. It should be every government's immediate priority. And diversification internationally is not just economic prudence, it's a material foundation for honest foreign policy, because countries earn the right to principled stands by reducing their vulnerability to retaliation. So Canada. Canada has what the world wants. We are an energy superpower. We hold vast reserves of critical minerals. We have the most educated population in the world. Our pension funds are amongst the world's largest and most sophisticated investors. In other words, we have capital, talent. We also have a government with immense fiscal capacity to act decisively. And we have the values to which many others aspire. Canada is a pluralistic society that works. Our public square is loud, diverse, and free. Canadians remain committed to sustainability. We are a stable and reliable partner in a world that is anything but. A partner that builds and values relationships for the long term. And we have something else. We have a recognition of what's happening and a determination to act accordingly. We understand that this rupture calls for more than adaptation. It calls for honesty about the world as it is. We are taking the sign out of the window. We know the old order is not coming back. We shouldn't mourn it. Nostalgia is not a strategy. But we believe that from the fracture, we can build something bigger, better, stronger, more just. This is the task of the middle powers. The countries that have the most to lose from a world of fortresses and the most to gain from genuine cooperation. The powerful have their power. But we have something too. The capacity to stop pretending, to name reality, to build our strength at home, and to act together. That is Canada's path. We choose it openly, confidently, and it is a path wide open to any country willing to take it with us. Thank you very much.
Bueno, pues importante discurso que incluso también hoy en la permanente se atrevió a decir el movimiento ciudadano, pues no mencionó a México. Estaba hablando, por supuesto, de la postura imperialista de Donald Trump, que por cierto hoy llegó de manera silenciosa, dicen algunos en internet, con alfombra roja, pero sin un recibimiento oficial. Honestamente no sé cómo recibieron a los demás mandatarios, pero bueno, eso sí, le pusieron su alfombra roja ahí, en ese gélido ambiente. Y dice, momento en el que Trump llegó a Davos, Suiza, no había nadie para recibirlo, no hay bienvenida oficial, sin delegación, solo una llegada silenciosa al foro más elitista del mundo. Obviamente fue un discurso largo, pero lo que destaca aquí es el tema de Groenlandia. ¿Qué dijo el señor? Pues prácticamente fue a querer apantallar a todo el mundo que son la superpotencia y que lo van a hacer por las buenas o por las malas, que no quiere usar la fuerza.
I have tremendous respect for both the people of Greenland and the people of Denmark, tremendous respect. But every NATO ally has an obligation to be able to defend their own territory. And the fact is, no nation or group of nations is in any position to be able to secure Greenland other than the United States. We're a great power, much greater than people even understand. I think they found that out 2 weeks ago in Venezuela. We saw this in World War II, when Denmark fell to Germany after just 6 hours of fighting and was totally unable to defend either itself or Greenland. So the United States was then compelled, we did it, we felt an obligation to do it, to send our own forces to hold the Greenland territory. And hold it we did. After the war, we gave Greenland back to Denmark. How stupid were we to do that? But we did it. But we gave it back. But how ungrateful are they now? So now our country and the world face much greater risks than it did ever before because of missiles, because of nuclear, because of weapons of warfare that I can't even talk about. Greenland is a vast, almost entirely uninhabited and undeveloped territory that's sitting undefended in a key strategic location between the United States, Russia, and China. That's exactly where it is, right smack in the middle. Wasn't important nearly when we gave it back. When we gave it back, it wasn't the same as it is now. It's not important for any other reason, everyone talks about the minerals. There's so many places. There's no rare earth. That's not the reason we need it. We need it for strategic national security and international security. This enormous unsecured island is actually part of North America, on the northern frontier of the Western Hemisphere. That's our territory. It's the United States alone that can protect this giant mass of land, this giant piece of ice, develop it and improve it and make it so that it's good for Europe and safe for Europe and good for us. And that's the reason I'm seeking immediate negotiations to once again discuss the acquisition of Greenland by the United States, just as we have acquired many other territories throughout our history, as many of the European nations have. They've acquired. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. I won't use force. All the United States is asking for is a place called Greenland, where we already had it, as a trustee, but respectfully returned it back to Denmark not long ago after we defeated the Germans, the Japanese, the Italians, and others in World War II. We gave it back to them. We were a powerful force then, but we are a much more powerful force now. After I rebuilt the military in my first term and continued to do so today, we have a budget of $1.5 trillion. If there is a war, much of the action will take place on that piece of ice. Think of it. Those missiles will be flying right over the center of that piece of ice. All we want from Denmark for national and international security and to keep our very energetic and dangerous potential enemies at bay is this land on which we're going to build the greatest golden dome ever built.
Bueno, justo hoy le preguntaron a la presidenta sobre las tierras raras. Él dice que no, pero en el fondo dice que lo necesitan por las buenas o por las malas. Entonces la pregunta es, ¿nos podría devolver la mitad del territorio mexicano que le pertenecía a los Estados Unidos mexicanos? No hace mucho que Santana lo vendió como cualquier otro panista, ¿no? Pues obviamente dice una bola de incoherencias. La gente dice, ¿hasta dónde va a llegar este señor? Ya presumiendo la violación al derecho internacional como un logro. Le dieron el premio Nobel de la Paz, ¿no? Bueno, la medalla, porque el premio es intransferible. Y ahora dice, pues, como no soy premio Nobel, oficialmente me importa muy poco lo que vaya a suceder. Y en la cuenta del Truth Social, el día de hoy, pues también mencionó que se había reunido con el secretario general de la OTAN y que ya hay acuerdos importantes. Fíjense nada más. Tras una reunión muy productiva con el secretario general de la OTAN, Mark Rutte, hemos establecido el marco para un futuro acuerdo con respecto a Groenlandia y, de hecho, a toda la región ártica. Esta solución, de concretarse, será muy beneficiosa para Estados Unidos y todos los países de la OTAN. Con base en este entendimiento, no impondré los aranceles que estaban previstos para entrar en vigor el 1 de febrero. Se están llevando a cabo conversaciones adicionales sobre la cúpula dorada en relación con Groenlandia. Se proporcionará más información a medida que avancen las conversaciones. El vicepresidente Vance, el secretario de Estado Marco Rubio, el enviado especial Steve Witkoff y otros, según sea necesario, serán responsables de las negociaciones. Me reportarán directamente. Gracias por su atención, Donald Trump, presidente de los Estados Unidos de América. Así las cosas, amigos, amigas, lo que está sucediendo en esta reunión. Incluso también pues se compartió esto a través de la Casa Blanca. Vamos a verlo.
I thank the media for being here. We've taken long trips, and this was a long one, but it's been working very well. We're having tremendous meetings with heads of state, with people of very big consequence having to do with war and peace, which is why we're here. And I just want to thank the Secretary General for being with us. We have a few things to discuss. was a meeting I actually look very forward to. He's doing a fantastic job. We've been friends. We lifted GDP from 2% to 5% together. That was done jointly, and it worked out really very well, and we appreciate it, Mark. So we'll be talking about various things. We'll be talking about Greenland. I imagine it may come up in our discussion. And but I think the trip has been amazing so far. It's been amazing. As you know, we're staying, and tomorrow we're doing something else having to do with the Board of Peace. We're getting tremendous acceptance of that. It's going to be great. So we'll see how that all works out, but we're doing that tomorrow. So thank you very much, media. Thank you very much. And Mark, would you
just briefly, what I just wanted to say again, as I did this morning when I was in a panel, I want to thank you again for what you did since coming in January, Trump 47. Basically getting the Europeans and Canada to really step up, and that led to the enormous success we had in The Hague with the 5%, which is crucial to defend ourselves and to also equalize with what the US is paying. This was a problem already there since Eisenhower. I always tell the Europeans, you're completely committed to NATO, but there is also one irritant, and it is this factor, that the Europeans were not paying the same as the US was paying. And we solved it, and this is crucial also because we need the money to protect ourselves. There's one thing I heard you say yesterday and today, you were not absolutely sure that the Europeans would come to the rescue of the US if you will be attacked. Let me tell you, they will. And they did in Afghanistan, as you know, for every American who paid the ultimate, for every 2 Americans who paid the ultimate price, there was one soldier from another NATO country who did not come back to his family. From the Netherlands, from Denmark, particularly from other countries. So you can be assured, absolutely, if ever the US will be under attack, your allies will be with you. Absolutely, there's an absolute guarantee. I really want to tell you this because it is important. It pains me if you think it is not. And under your leadership, this alliance is stronger than ever.
Thank you very much. It's a great compliment. Any questions?
Mr. President, the Danish foreign minister rejected your call to negotiate on Greenland. What will those...
I didn't call him.
No, sorry. The Danish foreign minister rejected what you said in your speech that you were hoping to negotiate to acquire Greenland, essentially saying that this is not something that they are willing to discuss. So what will those negotiations
Well, they didn't tell me that, so when they tell me, because I don't like getting it secondhand, if he wants to tell me, he'll tell me that to my face.
And when will you be discussing this?
I have no idea.
When you said you would
be discussing it with this man right here.
Mr. President,
he's frankly more important.
Mr. President, when you said you would remember if Denmark did not agree to a deal on Greenland, what did you mean? What are the consequences?
You'll have to figure that out for yourself. You're a smart guy.
Mr. President, do you see a price for Greenland that's reasonable?
I could see that, yeah.
Like, how would you calculate
I can see that, but there's a bigger price, and that's the price of safety and security and national security and international security having to do with many of your countries. That's really the price, and that's the big price. And as you know, we're doing the Golden Dome. It's going to be very expensive, and it's better if we have Greenland than it is without. It's going to be safer, it's going to be stronger, it's going to be better for Europe, and it's going to be better for us. And so we'll see what happens. Any other question?
What, is it reassuring to hear the NATO Secretary General say NATO will defend the United States if it comes under attack?
Well, I hope that that's true. I mean, he's a good man. He's never lied to me before. You know, we've had a good relationship, and he made that statement. That's nice. I mean, I just, you know, when I see what's happening with Greenland, I wonder, because I want Greenland for security. I don't want it for anything else. We have so much rare earth. We don't know what to do with it. We don't need it for anything else. And in terms of Greenland, you know, you have to go 25 feet down through ice to get it. It's not something that a lot of people are going to do or want to do. No, this is security we're talking about. And I can say one thing about Mark. He wants security, and he wants security for all of us, I think. We're a member of NATO. He wants security for NATO and beyond. So when he says that, Steve, I think it's, you know, it's very nice. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Press. Thank you, Press.
Thank you.
Thank you, Press. Thank you, Press. Let's go. Let's go. Start moving. Thank you, Press.
Bueno, no quiso muchas preguntas, amigos, amigas. Así las cosas. Y después va a querer Canadá, me pregunto yo. Y después va a querer México. Y después va a querer Cuba. Y después va a querer a medio Centroamérica. Esa es la pregunta. ¿Quién le va a poner un alto a este señor? La gente de la OTAN ya le está diciendo: no te preocupes, cuentas con nuestro apoyo. Bueno, este señor, la OTAN, porque obviamente los países no están muy de acuerdo. Así las cosas. amigos, amigas, es una situación alarmante la que se vive a nivel mundial. Obviamente la ONU no hace nada. Hay reclamos, sí, fuertes discursos muy buenos, muy interesantes, como el del señor Mark Carney, pero en el fondo, ¿alguien podrá ponerle un alto? Veremos qué pasan en estos largos 3 años que le quedan de mandato a este señor. Como siempre, lo más importante es conocer tu opinión y gracias por compartir nuestros videos. A veces también pues entendemos por estos temas. No siempre nuestros videos se comparten, ¿no? Lo que nosotros quisiéramos. Son noticias importantes y pues luego nos esconden. A lo mejor les duele de lo que hablamos, no lo sabemos, ¿no? Pero ahí está la información, el gran discurso y lo que dice la doctora. Esperemos que no se rompa el TEMEC. En el fondo hay negociaciones importantes y un mundial que, pues honestamente, sí le beneficia al país. Por una derrama importante de la gente que ve el fútbol, que es mucha. Lamentablemente hay mucha gente que sigue viendo el fútbol. Pero bueno, eso es lo que hay, amigos, amigas. Así que estaremos esperando sus comentarios. Yo me despido. Pásenla muy bien. Síganos en redes sociales y recuerden que un México informado siempre es un México mejor. Nos vemos muy pronto.